Hello and welcome to ABC News Washington Post Top Line. I'm Rick Klein.
And I'm Amy Walter.
Every day at noon Eastern, we're right here bringing you the latest in politics, everything you need to know before you head out that door to lunch. And Amy, it is your third day here on the Top Line set. Still nothing broken. Well
and still
done.
Not fired.
Not fired.
So
Excellent.
I've made it this far.
Successful first week here at ABC.
You will be gone next week, so hopefully when you get back,
you'll still be here.
As well. That is what I'm looking forward to. All right, let's throw it to the first top line. Blame Bush. Once again, the Democrats going after George Bush, this time in a new ad campaign. They are running on cable television, putting the blame for the bad economy right at President Bush's feet. But we also know, Rick, that when we look at the poll numbers, the most recent poll numbers especially, President Obama's approval of the handling economy also very low right now. So there's not exactly the clean, crisp contrast that Democrats want to have on the economy going into this fall.
That's right. And take a look at this ad. This is interesting. The DNC rolled this out at their summer meeting in St. Louis, right. And it's all about Bush. Take a look.
Do we put Main Street ahead of Wall Street? Do we hold big business accountable when they've gone too far? Or do we go back to the same Republican policies that got us into this mess?
They fooled me, we can't get fooled again.
Favorite Bush quote as well. Clearly this is the strategy that's emerging, is to try to make that contrast, as they say, the choice, not the referendum. If the choice is looking back versus looking forward, it works for Democrats, but it's a hard argument to make.
Yeah, it works. It only works well when voters like the choice.
That's right.
That Democrats are offering, and right now they don't really like it.
That's right. Well, speaking of that, more likely than not, that is Charlie Cook's prognostication about the fall and the prospects for a House Republican takeover. Take a look at what he said in the interview with the Wall Street Journal's Jerry Seib.
We're just seeing every sign in the world that this is going to be a wave, and a pretty good-sized wave. And I think it's more likely than not that the House is going to tip over, go Republican.
Everything, Amy, moving in the same direction when you see the big voices like the Charlie Cooks of the world begin to move it into the Republican column. It's all building toward what increasingly people think will be one result.
Well, and for Republicans, here's the question. Is this going to help them finally close that money gap?
Yeah.
The Senate campaign committee, the House campaign committee, especially the House campaign committee, having trouble keeping up with Democrats. Now will this kind of video give them a chance to catch up?
Next up, Amy?
Next up. Remember when we were talking about health care? It seems so long ago that was going to be the issue in the fall campaigns, yet the latest CNN poll out today shows that 40% of voters, only 40% of voters, say that they approve of the new law. And we saw also in Politico today, Ben Smith getting a hold of a PowerPoint presentation by some of the allies on behalf of the health care reform, now playing defense, basically saying, hey, if you want to talk about health care out there, please don't talk about it reducing the deficit, and definitely don't talk about it in the way that we thought we were going to talk about it. Much more defense than offense.
Maybe not talk about it at all. The interesting thing to me is that the only folks who are really talking about health care on the trail in an active way are Republicans, the people that voted against this thing. We had a lot of discussion early on about the Democrats being able to roll out tangible, concrete steps, things that are happening now that didn't happen before the law. There are some marking points before November, but by and large, Democrats are only talking about health care when they're asked about it, and most people asking about it aren't that happy with what they see in the bill.
Yeah, and I think that was a really good point. We saw there were going to be these short-term gains where that Democrats were going to at least be able to talk about the no pre-existing condition. They were going to talk about being able to put your kid up until the age of 26 on your health care. I haven't heard a thing about that.
No, not yet.
Maybe later this fall, but I doubt it.
And finally today, VITTER'S vitality, and we promise there's no double entendre there. This is about David Vitter, who is the, of course, Republican senator from Louisiana. And check out these poll numbers. The poll is 8 days away, and he is winning by 69 points against Chet Traylor, the Republican primary opponent. Republicans were looking at this a little bit skeptically. They were worried about the possibility of a primary upset. The numbers in the general are somewhat more promising for Democrats in the prospect of David Vitter losing a 13-point edge with Charlie Melanson behind. But David Vitter going into the primary in stronger political shape than ever and looking very likely to win another 6 years in the Senate, despite that little prostitution thing.
Yeah, and the fact that he has an aide who also has some serious problems. Chet Traylor actually trying to bring this up in a hard-hitting radio ad, and here's the problem. This is why he's at 5%. He can only afford a radio ad.
Right.
And bottom line, I think people have made their minds up about David Vitter a long time ago. The good political environment is the best thing that David Vitter has going for him.
I think that's exactly right.